In a tattoo parlor on trendy South Beach,
You did the 666 really big? Yeah.
sat the daughter of the man who claims to be God.
He's back. He's here to teach us that we should reign in life, that there is no sin, and today we're honoring him with this symbol.
Joanne de Jesus is one of several dozen members of a religious sect called Creciendo en Gracia, or Growing in Grace. They were tattooed on their arms, ankles, even their necks with 666, the biblical sign of the Antichrist. Why? Because their spiritual leader says he is the Antichrist, not the embodiment of evil, but rather the second coming.
666, Antichrist means do not put your eyes on Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Put it in Jesus after the cross.
And that's you.
That's me.
The World Health Organization yesterday announced that the swine flu pandemic is over. Unfortunately, there is a new threat, NDM1 bacteria. A new superbug that is resistant to even the most powerful antibiotics has entered UK hospitals, experts warn. They say bacteria that make an enzyme called NDM1 have traveled back with NHS patients who went abroad to countries like India and Pakistan for treatments such as cosmetic surgery. And experts fear NDM1 could now jump to other strains of bacteria that are already resistant to many other antibiotics. Ultimately, this could produce dangerous infections that would spread rapidly from person to person, and be almost impossible to treat.
I'm declaring a state of martial law in this city. We intend to seal off this borough. Then we intend to squeeze it.
I thought you were against it. This was not my call, so you're just following orders. The president made you put tanks on the Brooklyn Bridge. You questioning my patriotism.
FEMA death camps and the red and blue list under martial law. While I have no doubt that the NWO cravers at the CIA have their own list of people to round up and terminate, the actual proper agency behind the now infamous red-blue lists is none other than FEMA Black OPS. FEMA is not here to primarily help you. Under a full state of martial law, FEMA is here to send you to their detention camps to sort out who shall live and who shall die. Those unfortunates whose names are found among the millions of fellow Americans on FEMA red-blue lists will never come out of the FEMA camps alive, although they may have to go through hell before they are finally terminated. Such offenders are essentially deemed resistors of the New World Order, as my CIA and military insiders told me personally. Oh, all of us in the CIA know all about the concentration camps in America and their purpose. We all know that their purpose is to terminate resistors of the New World Order under martial law. Source: Michael Mahoney, 20 years Naval Intelligence CIA under Bush Sr. For example, the FEMA death camp of the Mojave is a full-gas cremating death camp, dedicated to the termination of all on FEMA's red-blue list under martial law. I have previously documented this horrific death camp, and documented the eyewitness accounts of several former NWO supporters who were flown out there. My friends, Doc Marquis, Illuminati, and Elaine Nost, CIA Luciferian, formerly high-level Illuminati Luciferians, but now are supposed Christians for many years, were both flown separately to this facility in the Mojave Desert of California. It boasts a landing strip. According to another contact, a D agent who personally investigated this FEMA facility. It was recently doubled in size to increase killing capacity. It is fully staffed. All staff members wear black SWAT team uniforms. When I asked Doc Marquis what his sentiments were, back when he was a member of the Illuminati and given a tour of this killing facility, his reply was, "Sheer joy. I rejoiced at the thought of Christians being terminated in this place." A chilling response, but typical of this nation's Satanists and NWO supporters. This FEMA death camp was shown off as something the NWO and FEMA was literally proud of.
We're standing now in the main parking lot, which doesn't look too sinister. At this level, it is a very large parking lot, fenced on all sides by fence topped by barbed wire. It also has these electronically operated turnstiles. There is also a surveillance camera, just like we saw at the FEMA facility, pointing out to the parking lot, and a helicopter windsock. All of these apparent security measures are particularly unusual here, because this is a very low crime area, and this facility is nothing but an old train repair station with nothing in it worth stealing. In this portion of the parking lot is a brick building, suitable for processing, next to a gate that leads right out to the railroad tracks, and all of this is contained inside a fully fenced area, now 3 layers deep in fencing at this point. This U.S. Air Force train indicates federal and military involvement. Facing the opposite direction, you can see that this area, too, is a very large fenced area with railroad track running the length of the fence and plenty of warehouses. This facility was supposed to have closed in June of 1993, yet instead several million dollars in federal funds have been spent on supposed renovations over the past 2 years. Helicopter windsocks and markers are evident throughout the property. This small building is the only way into a particular fenced area. Inside this building we see more of the motion-activated detectors, electronic turnstiles, and prison bars. Even as we were filming, a black helicopter flew over us, observing what we were doing, which has happened many times when we have been at the facility. The gas lines and gas pipes at the facility run the length of the buildings. And come out at some very, very large, brand new furnaces that have been installed at the buildings throughout the facility. We found this crane, which has seen better days, but is plainly marked U.S. Army in the middle of the stockyard. We found other fully working military trucks and equipment here at other times. Inside the facility, we found large fenced-in areas next to the railroad tracks marked green zone and blue zone, suitable for holding a lot of people. Many of the old warehouse buildings have had new concrete floors put into them. Unused sections of railroad track have been dug up and replaced, and from the supplies in the stockyards, it is obvious they will be doing even more construction and fencing.
A doctor from China's military system has stepped forward to reveal more information about the organ harvesting concentration camps, a phenomenon that the Chinese Communist Party is desperately trying to cover up. And with many staff members inside the military reported to be missing since the information went public, the pressure is now on for an investigation in the mainland. 3 times the senior military doctor has revealed stunning information on the organ harvesting from live Falun Gong practitioners. And on Friday, June 30th, he again revealed to overseas investigators that the Chinese Communist Party is using diplomatic means to hide its crimes.
They're disposable coffins, I believe he told me. And He says there's 100, at that time, he said there was 125,000 there. And they were stacked, he told me, 15 high. I asked him who owned them, and he stated that the CDC owned them and that they were leasing the land, leasing his land for storage. And he said his brother worked with the CDC in Atlanta and had been asked by the CDC to do a 3-year extension to place temporary morgues all across the nation.
We're just getting an idea for the size of these boxes. What could these boxes be used for? Well, they're called casket liners. And that's an interesting term, isn't it? It's a casket liner. When I first heard the term casket liner, I thought perhaps a lining for a casket. But this is too big to be on the inside of a casket. So certainly this could be used as a casket. This is an inexpensive casket. And you can see the size here. There's lots of room. I think my friends here, we could all probably get inside, and it might be a little cozy, but we'd fit just fine. Which tells me that these liners can be used for more than just one.
Assalamu alaikum. Many other Americans have Muslims in their families or have lived in a Muslim majority country. I know because I am one of them. But my father came from a Kenyan family that includes generations of Muslims. As a boy, I spent several years in Indonesia and heard the call of the azan at the break of dawn. I have known Islam on 3 continents before coming to the region where it was first revealed. That experience guides my conviction.
You're absolutely right that John McCain has not talked about my Muslim faith.
Passages of Scripture should guide our public policy. Should we go with Leviticus, which suggests slavery is okay? Or we could go with Deuteronomy, which suggests stoning your child if he strays from the faith? Or should we just stick to the Sermon on the Mount, a passage that is so radical that it's doubtful that our own Defense Department would survive its application? Folks haven't been reading their Bible. I would like to speak directly to the people and leaders of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Their great and celebrated culture. Over many centuries, your art, your music, literature, and innovation have made the world a better and more beautiful place.
They are said to be behind everything from the French and American revolutions to the rise of socialism and communism to the symbols on the U.S. dollar. They are furtive, formidable, and undeniably fascinating, arguably the most mysterious organization in modern history. What do they call themselves?
That's Illuminati. The Illuminati were a secret society dedicated to scientific truth. The Catholic Church ordered a brutal massacre to silence them forever. They've come for their revenge.
The Illuminati.
The Illuminati were enlightened freethinkers, very politically motivated, and they were a secret society. We know they had an interest in earth, air, fire, and water.
Illumination to these individuals meant moving into higher consciousness, higher awareness, being an actual font of wisdom.
George Washington wrote in 1798, quote, "It was not my intention to doubt that the doctrines of the Illuminati had not spread in the United States. On the contrary, no one is more truly satisfied of this fact than I am." And what about the Great Seal of the United States found on our $1 bill?
The Great Seal has two sides. The first side is the eagle side, which carries the olive branches and the arrows and the motto E pluribus unum. The second side, the reverse side, or perhaps the more mystical side, has the pyramid, the eye in a triangle, and we kept us above the eye in a triangle, and that means God prospers our undertaking. And Novus Ordo Seclorum, which means the new order of the ages.
And the symbol on the eye in the triangle, or the all-seeing eye as it is also known, can be traced back to Egyptian mythology. Today it is also commonly linked to groups such as the Illuminati or the Freemasons, and many believe its presence on the Great Seal is proof that secret societies played a role in our nation's founding. Nevertheless, most scholars will tell you that Adam Weishaupt's order of the Illuminati is now just a page in history. Probably.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
What really happens is, the only way you can do it is to invade the cell of the tomato and deposit the flounder gene. Well, what's good at invading cells? Bacteria and viruses.
After 12 years of searching, Monsanto found a soil bacteria that is naturally immune to Roundup herbicide. Their goal was to genetically engineer DNA from these bacteria into various plants. They cut out a sequence of DNA that is resistant to Roundup. But if this DNA sequence alone is inserted into a corn plant, it will have no effect. So the next step involves E. coli bacteria. Gaps are created in the E. coli DNA, and when the two test tubes are mixed together, some of the E. coli DNA recombines with the Roundup-resistant bacteria. Then the technicians smuggle the engineered DNA into the cells of the corn plant they want to modify. Cells will naturally reject foreign DNA, so they developed a method using soil bacteria that causes tumors in plants. They use this bacteria to ferry the engineered DNA into the plant's nucleus. There are also two other methods used to get the engineered DNA through the cell wall. One uses a stream of electricity to create tiny holes in the plant cells so they become vulnerable to
So what could the effects be when the bacteria that only used to live in our soil is now being distributed into the air through our crops? In the Philippines, the people living next to the genetically engineered cornfield developed recurring skin, respiratory, and intestinal problems, Blood tests were done on 39 of the Filipinos, and it was revealed that their immune system was affected by the Bt toxin that the corn had released. According to the Society of Diabetic Rights, thousands of diabetics have experienced bad reactions, and many have died as a result of this genetically engineered insulin called synthetic or human insulin. The Union of Concerned Scientists have been urging the United States Department of Agriculture to put a ban on pharma crops due to the potential that they could contaminate all of our food supply.
The number of E. coli fatalities nudged higher than 20 on Sunday, but an end might be in sight. Even as the German health minister was touring the hospital where many of the worst affected patients are being treated, there was news that German-grown bean sprouts were now the likely source of this bug.
Fears are growing that an E. coli breakout in northern Germany, which has now claimed 14 lives, could worsen before the week is out. Raw vegetables are suspected, specifically cucumbers imported from Spain. More than 300 people are seriously ill.
This equation has four factors, a little bit of multiplication. So you've got a thing on the left, CO2, that you want to get to zero. And that's going to be based on the number of people, the services each person's using on average, the energy on average for each service, and the CO2 being put out per unit of energy. So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. That's back from high school algebra. But let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, health care, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. But there we see an increase of about 1.3. Really great job on new vaccines, health care, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
More now of our special coverage here tonight, life in the U.S. in 10 years' time. By that time, there may be all kinds of new ways to safeguard and identify all those things that make each of us unique, our faces, even our fingerprints, even our eyes.
All right, this next story may sound like something out of, well, a Hollywood thriller. A Saudi inventor has created a killer microchip. It's designed to track terrorists and criminals and, well, you can think of somebody. Not only does it include a GPS device, it also has a lethal dose of cyanide, which can be activated at any time. You get my point?
to show them talent like they've never seen before. So give your all. I love you all, and we're family. Just know that. We're a family.
Yeah. Amen.
We have to bring love back into the world, to remind the world that love is important. Love is important. Love each other. We're all one. It's a message, and take care of the planet. So 4 years to get it right, or else it's irreversible damage we've done. So we have an important message to give. Okay? It's important, but I thank you for your cooperation so far. Thank you. Big thank you.
I think one thing people who are dollar-based need to focus on is the Amero. That's the one thing that nobody's talking about, but I think it's going to have a big impact on everybody's life in Canada, the U.S., and Mexico. If you Google it, you'll find out all about it.
Well, you could tell us a little bit more right now.
You always hear it on CNBC, don't you? The Amero is the proposed new currency for the North American community, which is being developed right now between Canada, the U.S., and Mexico to make a borderless community, much like the EU, and the dollar, Canadian dollar, U.S. dollar, and the Mexican peso replaced by the Amero.
You really think that will get any leeway?
You may want to visit a couple of websites and see how far along it is. The Canadians are pretty upset about it, whereas the Americans, apart from the Texans, are the only people who know anything about it. The rest of the public's really sort of with their head in the sand on this one.
These new documents up, and I really want to hear from the snarky little left wing who deny that there's such a thing as the SPP and the plans of part of this administration, that of the Mexican government and the Canadian government to go ahead with the North American Union. Because I think the snarky little darlings are about to awaken to the error of their ways.
There's documentation.
It's unbelievable that these, and it's primarily left-wing activists who are denying what is happening with the elites of corporate America, academia, and of course our political elites as well.
And the goals of the Illuminati, this is all very well documented, are to take over the world. One of the best ways of taking over the world is to control people's minds and to take over a country through the control of the mind.
Traveling at the speed of light, an EMP attack would strike everything directly in its line of sight. The higher the altitude, the greater the devastation. At 30 miles above the United States, the device would affect up to half a dozen states. But at 300 miles, the whole continent of North America would be brought to an irreversible standstill.
like somebody passing a 5-bar electric fire very close to your bag and then moving it away.
It was so unexpected and so eerie in a way, because there's no sound whatsoever. There's just this brilliant flash. Although you have sunglasses on and your hands covering your eyes, you could see all the bones in your hands. That bright, showing through.
We didn't wait for the order to be given to turn round. We just turned round and we saw this fantastic orange-black flame mass just rising in the sky, and it was enormous. It's pure inferno. We'd seen others, but this was the biggest we'd seen.
It was almost beautiful. In fact, I think it would be described as being beautiful. And it rose very rapidly in the air. We were about 20 miles away, I think, and we got a really magnificent view of this thing.
For the Mayan calendar also predicts the end of the world as we know it, on the date that the Mayans called Hunab Ku.
On the winter solstice 2012, December 21st, the sun rises within the dark rift at the center of the Milky Way. And they call this dark rift a cosmic mother, or they also apparently refer to it as a black hole. And only in the last 5 years have Western astronomers discovered that there is actually an enormous black hole at the center of the Milky Way, which is at the center of our galaxy.
Modern astronomers concur with the ancient Mayans. On December 21st, 2012, the Earth will be in exact alignment with the Sun and the center of the Milky Way galaxy, a galactic event that takes place only once every 25,800 years. No one knows what effect this extraordinary alignment will have on the Earth, but the Mayans believed it would be dire.
Welcome back to the Roadshow. This morning in The Buzz, what's your sign? Well, astronomers from the Minnesota Planetarium Society say they have found that the moon's gravitational pull on the Earth has actually changed our planet's position in relation to its axis. I know that's confusing, but it makes the original alignment of the stars, and that's the basis for our zodiac signs, off by about a month. Not only that, to confuse matters even more, let's say, a 13th zodiac sign called Ophiuchus has been added. So because of this discovery, many people's zodiac signs have actually been changed. Take a listen to what a professor from the planetarium has to say.
Right now it's pointing towards the North Star, Polaris, the pole star. But 3000 BC, things were oriented differently. Ophiuchus has been a constellation for thousands of years, and yet it just gets ignored.